Welcome back to another episode of the Executive Code podcast. I'm joined here with Nicole, and Nicole has a question to ask. And if you've listened to our last episode, you'll realize that we went a little bit off tangent, but that's okay because literally we're here to help and support as many people as we possibly can. If you want to find out more about discovering your own life purpose or how you can get support in terms of helping you on your journey, head over to www.paulwilliamdavis.com. And if you like the content that we share, why not give us a review and share with your friends and colleagues, because in that way we can reach an awful lot more people. So let's get to the questions that you have, Nicole. What have you got for us this week?
So Paul, a lot of life revolves around routines and mundane activities like cleaning the house or errands. And even at work, there's some amount of repetition to it, no matter what you do. So how can we find joy and meaning in our routines and daily lives when it sometimes feels so repetitive?
Okay. The first thing I'm going to say, and it's not, I don't want to dismiss it, but the first thing I'm going to say is where at all possible, it's to delegate. I cannot emphasize it enough. So let me explain by that, because listeners to this particular episode or podcast will know that I speak quite a bit around your genius drivers. And if you're doing activities that are not in line with your genius drivers, that's where they're going to feel like chores. They're going to feel like, they're things that you just don't want to be doing. And that's because they're not in line with your genius drivers. Now, where at all possible, you want to delegate or outsource those activities, to be quite honest. The whole aim for when I'm working with clients and my advice to everybody, the whole aim is to try and create your life or design your life whereby you're only doing activities that are in line with your genius drivers. Now, are you going to have some activities that won't be exactly aligned? Yes, you will. But then if you ask yourself the question, well, how does it actually serve you in terms of fulfilling your purpose? Or how does it align to your genius drivers? Well, then now they become an awful lot easier to do. But the first premise, to be kind of honest with you, Nicole, it's a term of how can you actually outsource or delegate those tasks? So you mentioned the question in relation to, clean the house or running errands and all that kind of things. They will be the first primary ones that I will be getting rid of the list of things that you need to do, to be quite honest. When you're in employment, that's a little bit more difficult to do in terms of, because there will be tasks that we have to do. There's routine tasks that you have to be performing as an employee within the company. And therefore you may not have complete control over getting rid of those tasks. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is moving up for want of a better word, the management scale in terms of becoming more of a manager or a director within the company. And therefore now you've got a lot more flexibility in what you can actually delegate to your team. So that would be the first response I would have on that. In relation to here's something that I do actually observe in some people, not everybody, but in some people, they see tasks that need to be done and they see it as a chore. And what we might mean by that is when they think of those tasks, they build it up in their mind that they're big things that need to be done. And therefore in their mind, they're kind of, oh my God, I have to get this done. And even their whole energy and their language around it is that it's like a mountain that they have to climb. So what they've done literally mentally before even doing a task is they've actually built it into quite a significant task that needs to be done. However, when you actually look at it, a lot of the tasks are very, very small. So, as you say in your question, whether it be cleaning the kitchen or, filling the dishwasher or whatever it might be, they're small, tiny, minute little tasks. Yes, they are a bit of an irritant because they got to be done if you cannot outsource them or delegate them. But what part of actually happens is that we create them in our mind as being huge things that need to be done. So the more we lessen those images that we have of those tasks within our mind and make them smaller and smaller and smaller and look past the actual task itself, now that task becomes minuscule because we're looking to try and get the task done as quickly as possible in order to get onto something that we either really enjoy doing or want to have done that's more in line with our genius drivers or more in line with our purpose. So that's my first approach in terms of dealing with routine tasks and minuscule, mundane tasks, as you refer to them as, Nicole.
Yeah, and even in flying, I think people don't realize how repetitive it is. It actually is. It might be a different airport, different weather conditions, different crew, passengers, but you're almost following a script, really. You have to learn specific, we call it call outs. When you're taking off, what do you say when you're into crew environment? And you're really just following a script and then adjusting that according to reality. So it's you're doing the same thing over and over again, and the good thing is you get good at it because you're doing it so many times. If you mess up one day, you have the next day to do it again because you're going to be doing the same thing, and you just try to make sure that you get better at it the next time.
And you've actually raised something that reminded me of something for yourself, because your genius role is the pioneer. And the pioneer hates routine. So just think of it. The pioneer wants to create, she wants to innovate, she wants to develop. So pioneers don't like routine. So therefore, by you doing the same thing on an ongoing basis, hence the reason why I know you're going to be doing something else later on, is fed into your genius role. You will rally or rail against routine. It's going to be a huge discomfort for you as because that's your genius role. And again, for listeners that may not be familiar with what I refer to as genius roles, out of all the years I've worked with the clients on the subject matter of life purpose and personal mastery, I've identified 10 different genius roles. Now, an individual will play one of those roles throughout their whole life. Now, with every single genius role, there's a shadow side and there's a frustration point. So when people aren't aware of the shadow side and their frustration point, that's what creates self-sabotage. So the genius role that we identified when we were working through Nicole's life purpose and her pilot's manual is what I call your pilot's manual. The genius role that we identified for you, Nicole, is the pioneer. And the pioneer does not like routine. So that's a kind of a flag for not just for yourself, but also for other listeners in terms of if you're looking to develop a career or a business, it's how, if your genius role is the pioneer, and it's very different for the other genius roles. But if your genius role is the pioneer and you're doing routine tasks on an ongoing basis, you're not going to last that long in that particular career.
And Paul knows I'm going to do something after flying, but I don't know what that is. So we'll see. You'll have to ask me in maybe 10 years or something. But you brought up a good point about outsourcing. And with technology these days, it's just a lot easier. You can, we have this thing called Instacart in the US. I don't know what it is in Europe. I'm sure you have something as well, but you can basically pay someone to do your groceries for you, and it's so easy. You save so much time. I discovered it 3 months ago because I was too busy training to go get groceries. And so it's such a time saver, and it's so fuss free. Ordering food, even getting someone to walk your dog if you don't want to do it, try and outsource it and delegate it if you can. So It really helps with technology now.
Now we don't have that particular service over here, but I think our listeners would love that service over here. So and you get onto the company and ask them to expand it over here. But it sounds excellent. But let me put it this way. There will always be somebody that will want to do the work that you don't want to do, because they're the expert in that particular work. It's the work that they love doing. And therefore, what you're doing is you're developing the economy in order to support them in doing the work that they love to do. But ultimately, what you're doing is you're freeing your own time up to do more of the work that you want to do. Now, that can be a lot of challenging for a lot of people in terms of whereby they may not have enough income in order to pay somebody else. But very quickly, when you start to do the maths and work out, well, then how much would you pay somebody else to do a particular task that you don't enjoy doing? Look at in comparison of how much time are you actually spending on doing those tasks, let alone the energy drain on you. And when you do that comparison, you actually find, okay, no, it makes sense to have somebody that's absolutely passionate and really enjoys doing the kind of work that you want to delegate or want to outsource, in order to free up your time to do work that you absolutely love to do. Now, don't get me wrong, like I'm 21 years in business. Is there work that I still do that I don't enjoy doing? Absolutely, there is. I have probably outsourced or delegated or got rid of the vast majority of the work, and I mean the vast majority of the work that I don't enjoy doing. To give an example of that, I'm a trained accountant, but I don't do my own tax returns. I don't do my own year-end accounts. So, there's things that I will have actually outsourced and delegated over the years. I'm now at the point whereby the vast majority of my time is spent on what's completely in line with my purpose and my genius role. So my genius role is the guide. And as a genius role, part of my work is guiding clients and guiding individuals and advising them in terms of what's going to help their life an awful lot easier. In my form, it's bringing them towards their life purpose. So if anybody was to look at my diary, they would actually see 90% of my time is in some form of advising or guiding clients. And the rest is spent on tasks that need to be done, but I know that nobody else either can do them or I need to start them off and then actually outsource or delegate them. But as you say, Nicole, there are so many different platforms out there and tools and ways of how we can literally outsource some of those mundane routine tasks that we actually have. And the sooner you do, honestly, from my perspective and the experience that I've had with clients, is it makes a massive, massive difference to an individual and an individual's energy and their motivation, let alone a difference to their actual business itself.
It's like economies of scale. And if everyone does work that, is relevant to their genius drivers or their genius role and does what they are meant to do, how much better would the world be?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It would make a huge amount of difference. Because again, let me just touch a couple of different things because you've triggered something else inside my mind, Nicole. When you're doing activities, so let me just recap this for listeners, because I know we've said this on previous episodes. When you're doing activities that's in line with your genius drivers, you're activating the executive center part of the brain. And the executive center part of the brain is responsible for creativity, innovation, objectivity, and planning. So what you're doing is you're operating from the part of the brain that you're supposed to be operating from, as opposed to being operating from the amygdala. Now, when you're operating from that side of the brain, you will achieve things an awful lot quicker. Tasks and activities that are not in line with your genius drivers and not in line with your life purpose will drain your energy and now will move you into more operating from the amygdala side of the brain. On top of that, when you're doing activities that are in line with your genius drivers, you're increasing your self-worth. So again, the converse of that is that if you're doing activities that are not in line with your genius drivers, you're reducing your self-worth. And by reducing your self-worth, you're reducing your confidence. By reducing your confidence, you're reducing the level of activity that you will do in your business in order to drive your business forward. So the knock-on effect is huge. If people just think that, just by doing activities, that it's a routine task, yeah, they can get it done. But there's so many other reasons as regards why I keep advising clients is the more activities that you can outsource and delegate that's not in line with your genius drivers, not in line with your genius role, not in line with your purpose, the better in so many multiple different ways. So that's my advice to, hopefully I think I've answered your question, Nicole, have I?
Yeah, you have. And one way to discover your genius drivers is to work with you one-on-one.
Yeah, well, actually one-on-one, but also because I've developed an online course, people can literally find out what their genius drivers are by actually completing the online course. But not only that, they'll actually find and discover what their true life purpose is. And again, if you've been listening to this podcast for a number of times, you'll understand that I talk about life purpose in a completely different way, very much so than a lot of what is actually said online and in books and all that kinds of things, because they will never be able to find, you'll never be able to find your life purpose from that perspective. So what we do is within the course or on a one-to-one basis, we identify 4 different elements: what your genius quest is, which is your mission, what you're to do; your genius drivers is what you are going to get fulfillment from. And as I said earlier on, in terms of how important your genius drivers are; your genius role, which is literally how you're to deliver on your purpose. And then there is your genius inspiration, which is divinely given in terms of what inspires you to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. So people can now actually do that online course very, very simply And I'm there within the course environment to answer any questions that people have anyway as well. And what I can do is I'll put the link within the show notes, so people can literally link directly to that particular course. Or you can go to www.paulwilliamdavis.com and all the details about the course and everything else to find out about your life purpose and your genius drivers are all there on the website itself. So I think, yeah, Nicole.
And if you're not ready to do the course, but you want a sneak peek, you can always go to the executive code community that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we've changed over the last number of months, and Nicole, you may not be aware of this because you were involved in training, which is we've restructured the lounges within the executive code. So the executive code, you've got the free community, but now I've joined and restructured the lounges that we had previously, the executive lounge and the pilots lounge, and now we have a brand new pilots lounge. And that's the whole focus of that, is about getting results for members of the pilots lounge, in order for them to actually be on their life purpose, but also to be making a difference that they're here to make. And my whole focus literally within that is getting results for members. So we're doing an awful lot of different things within that pilots lounge in order to achieve those results for people.
I'll have to go check it out. I haven't looked at it in 3 months because of training.
Exactly. Well, look, what I'll do is I'll put all the links within the show notes. If you want to find out more, honestly, what I'll say to you is go to our website, paulwilliamdavis.com, and you'll find out so much more. Honestly, there is so much you can absolutely learn. And if you're trying to figure out your life purpose, don't wait. Honestly, just don't wait. Now, at this stage that you've got the option of one-to-one as well as doing the online course, there is no reason whatsoever why you shouldn't find out what your life purpose is, because once you find it out, now you can have the clarity and the certainty of what you need to do in life in order to pursue the dreams that you're here to do. But until next time, I wish you every success.